Now today I'm going to start a little bit differently. I'm going to take my clear gel and white, and I'm going to mix a little bit of blue with it, not much, and then just a little bit of red. Now I've already toned my canvas and it's dry, so it's burnt umber, and I did my pencil sketch on top. And I'm going to take these colors, because I'm using a toned canvas for oil, which I don't typically do. That's why I'm not doing my clear gel and white over the sky. I'm just going to allow the colors to sort of come through. And so I'm not going to do the clear gel and white, which of course would cover it up and your colors wouldn't come through. So I'm going to try to let some of that warmth pull through. I think it'll be very, very pretty and a beautiful contrast against the blues that I'm working on here. I think that'll be so nice. Now, if you've been hanging out with me over on Patreon, you'll of course recognize this subject. This is the barn that I did the sketch for you guys to follow. So if you missed out on that, what happened was I did a simple line drawing. In fact, I'm going to show you the line drawing. This is it right here. I posted that line drawing without all those smudges. I posted that on Patreon, and people did their own versions. So I didn't have any color. I just said, hey, use the color that you want to use. And then when you're done, share it with me. And then I made a video where I reviewed everybody's painting and told them how to improve it and showed them areas that I think that they're doing very well at, you know, just things like that, stuff to help you improve. So we had a good time with that, but then I was live streaming and on Patreon, of course, and people were saying, hey, I want you to do your own barn, you know, do the painting. We want to see what you would do with it. So that's just exactly what I'm going to do. I wasn't really planning on it, but there you go. So if you're not over on Patreon, you're really missing out on most of the fun. I think we're having probably the best time on Patreon right now. There's just so much going on with the live streams and like with these painting challenges, and there's community tabs now so that you can connect with other people and with me and, you know, ask questions about your painting. If you get stuck, you can upload a picture of it. And there's things like that. It's just in my mind, it's a really good tool. So I hope you take advantage of it. I will put it as the first link in the description. Now I'm going to take a filbert brush through some white and maybe just a little bit of my clear gel. Not much, just a tiny bit. Remember, I don't have the clear gel and white on the background, so it's stickier than normal. And I took just a second and wiped that area off with a shop towel because that's where my clouds are going to go. So let's try to do some clouds. Let's try. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow, and just a tinge of red. I don't want green. I'm going to try not to get green. Any of these little leftover spots where it looks like, oh, I wiped the canvas, that'll just look like more clouds, like softer, more subtle clouds, so I'm good with that. Wipe the brush every time before you reload it. That's critical. Add more of my Hansa yellow to the mix here as I go downward into this region here because I want it to be brighter. Anywhere that we're going to see this. Now I know I've got trees here, so I don't want to block. You know, I just waste my time. Trying not to waste my time. Actually go a little brighter. I've caked that up too thick, so I'll have to wipe it off, but that's okay. We're just starting. We're just starting, and things develop in a painting. They don't just boom and it's in. Never, almost never, at least it never happens for me. Now I'm going to bring some of the storm cloud look into the painting. So I've got my purples and blues just kind of mixed right over the same colors to help to tie the painting together with color. Of course, I do have to be careful in this area. I don't want to overdo it and fill it all in. I've got my trees over here, not too worried about that. I'm going to do a light blend. A lot of these are kind of chunky. I don't know if you can tell it on camera, but certainly here in person, looks a little chunky. So I definitely want to smooth that out with the blender brush before I go too far. Okay, let me just continue here. Bring up a little bit of that storm cloud shadow. So now everything basically is being built with shadows, developed, shaped, and sculpted here, using nothing really but shadow. My highlights in for the most part. Can't really go a lot brighter than that. What makes it look bright is by having the shadow next to it. There we go. Less and less along the top. I want that to be kind of subtle. And hopefully that wet paint, you know, when I touch it all, just kind of smooth together. That's my hope, and it'll look good. And I'll have all those little variations kind of built in. We'll see how that goes. We may have to add more variation. And certainly I want to add blue, but I don't want to do that until later on, close to where I'm done with the sky. I'll add more of a blue hit here and there because I don't want to create any colors that I wouldn't want, whether it's kind of like a turquoise green or whatever. I don't want that in the sky. So I got to be careful you know what we need to do? We need to take a look at the paintings that you guys did in my last one. Hopefully you're doing your version. It's always fun to see what you guys are up to. And if you do it, share using the information on the screen. And if I see it in time, I'll get it in my next video. And everybody will get a chance to look at it. It's a great learning tool. You can see what people are up to. Of course, if you like that kind of thing, I mean, Patreon, where are you? Go over on Patreon, because that is total art community now. Now I've got a blender brush and a paper towel standing by because I'm going to try to flatten some of this texture out. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not. There's quite a buildup of paint, so I need to continually wipe my brush, and that will smooth everything out. And I need to be super careful around these yellow areas, obviously. In fact, some of the yellow areas, maybe all I'll do is just sort of touch them and then wipe. Now, once I get this flattened out, then I can come back with my detail round or flat brush, whatever I want to use, and I can actually bring in a little more highlight. But first off, I've got to kind of remove some paint, and I'm actually using the blender to remove, because I'm actually lifting the paint away and wiping it on the paper towel. There, that'll work. Just little by little, kind of bringing that together, smoothing it together. I don't want to go so crazy that it just blends everything into one big mush, but it definitely needs some softening, and that cloud there needs some help. And you'll find clouds that do need help. You know, you'll be going along, you're like, oh, it's not working. Just don't worry about that area. Move on, and you can fix it later. Now I'm going to take some fresh white, hopefully not contaminated. I'm going to take some clear gel. This is pretty pure. Pretty pure. There's not a lot going on. I may not add any color, because well, let me just add a little bit of yellow ochre just so it has a flavor to it. We don't want to use pure white, because after all, no real artist use pure white, right? Yeah. So right up in here, let's start with our little sun spot right there. I'm just going to continue to bring out some of these life-filled, lighting, beautiful, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you get the idea. A lot of pretty details in the clouds. Boom, look at that. Halfway decent. I think that'll work. What this does is it just brings out a little bit of highlight, a little bit of lighting, a little bit of strength to that area that I think kind of works. You know, it's very, very simple. Not a lot going on in this little area. There's a lot going on over here, I guess. I'm not happy totally with that yet, but I don't want to get my brush too dirty. While it's still nice and clean, I'm using that detail round brush. I'd like to get in here and work on some of these areas that I'm not happy yet with. This is my highlight spot. I'm going to probably brighten that up here in a moment. Oh, you know, I'm going to do it right now. Let's just do it. I'm going to put a little, because my brush is clean, I'm going to put a little white down in there. And I'm going to feather it, because it does need to be brighter. Well, for my painting at least, it needs to be brighter. You know, one thing I almost forgot, it's not too late. Let's go ahead and get these colors reflected in the water. So to do that, it's very simple. This area is dry with no medium whatsoever, so I'm going to take some of that clear gel and mix it with my various colors. That'll help it to flow. It's not necessary 100%, but I believe it helps. You know, it helps me. I know it helps me. There you go, some of those beautiful colors there. That's nice. Then not too much there. Let's go right into the purples and the pinks and whatnot, and I'll just sort of replicate some of these, especially the deeper tones here in the water. And it's actually so super important to do it now and not later, because these colors will be muddy. You know, we're gonna use greens and yellows and stuff for the grass, and you'd have to probably just go ahead and remix the colors. You probably wouldn't be able to just use what you have, and it's so much faster to just do it right now. I have, you know, in the past forgotten to do that, and I have to come back and do it later. But if at all possible, it's better. It's just better to go ahead and get your water painted at the very same time you paint your sky, for obvious reasons. I'm going to take a color that's very similar here to the sky, and let me go ahead and just paint in my little, well, it might be just a little too dark. Let me paint in my little distant foothill right back here. Let me mix it with a little bit of, just a little bit of a lighter blue or something. I don't know. A little too dark. Oh, there it is. That's pretty. And just creating those little foothills. Pretty straightforward. Not a whole lot of that is even going to be seen. You know, so I'm just going to kind of paint it right there, because the rest really won't be necessarily seen or noticed at all. Let's just get that filled in. Now we can finally start working on some land here. All right, I've got some yellow. So with some white, Hansa yellow, yellow ochre, that's a good way to start for some beautiful grass, golden grass. I don't want it all golden, I do want some green in it, maybe. You know, you think, oh yeah, I got this all worked out in my mind, but then, oh, things change. Obviously, the layout of the painting is supposed to be pretty much just settled, but, well, that's kind of pretty. But the color scheme is completely up to me, you know, whereas for the people on Patreon, the color scheme I left, and the season, I left completely up to them. There we go. That is part of the creative process. I think that's really exciting to see what different people chose to do, you know. There's a lot of really cool paintings. It's a good way to learn too. If your paintings are, if you're new, if you're like, this is my third painting, it's a good way to learn. Good way to learn. There we go. So I'm just using the little flat brush. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Some sap green, burnt umber for my shadows. Ooh, that's dark. I'm going to lighten it with some yellow ochre. I'm going to mix up some brown, black, green. There we go. Let's just see what that does. Because I want to create here just a few larger trees. Overall, the trees are not huge in this painting. I've got just some sketch marks here. Let me just start. According to my reference, I hate to cover that cloud, it's so pretty. But according to my reference, I kind of went up a little higher than the barn, and I'm going to try to stick kind of close to that, but I'll bring it down like so. There you go. Yeah, I don't want to just obliterate my sky. I spent a long time, probably more time than I should have, but I wanted to make the sky interesting. I'm just gonna work this tree line in. Like I don't want to hurt my little background. That's good enough. I don't want to destroy it. I like my background too much to risk covering it. Now I'm moving forward here with some of these grassy tones. I'm just gonna highlight this next ridge so you can clearly see there's a distinction. I've got that secondary ridge there, which of course is the one by this barn, so that works. Maybe just behind it. It just has a little bit behind that barn, and it kind of slopes downward. It looks good, and we'll do more later. Get a little bit more of this, so just tapping it. Of course, this area is still dry. I like that toned canvas. If I don't get the canvas completely covered, well, it won't matter because it's already painted. I like that. I think that gives me just a little bit of an easier painting experience. What do you think? You should give it a try. If you've never toned a canvas, I would highly recommend you try it because you might find out that it really helps you. It's not a very crazy, colorful sky. It's very dynamic with a lot of contrast, but it's not super colorful. But what that means is that I can come in here and I can do not just gold. If this was just like boom, pure yellow, and then I would have to stick with my yellow tones, but there's mostly purple and blue and just gold, you know, very little yellow to speak of. So I can get in here and do all kinds of grassy colors, anything that I'd like to see. It doesn't have to just be solid gold, which is kind of nice, a little more freedom with color. I'm gonna put a ripple on the water, just put a little ripple. If you want one, now is the time to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to paint around it. I take a little bit more of this, and I'm going to just take some of my colors here and just begin to blend them down and into my water. Just like that area over there. Well, now that I've got that water a little more complete, I can get in here with that clean fan brush and fluff the grass up. There, see, now I can get that clean edge against the water, and I wouldn't destroy my grass. I don't normally do things in order very often, but this is one of those things where I thought, yeah, I would better do this in order. There we go. Wipe the brush just as soon as it starts picking up too much paint, which it just about was. And then just continue to fluff that grass. What's so fun about this is you can put it on, it looks like a mess. And then as you work it, just all these little beautiful textures just appear out of nowhere. It's so fun. It's a fun technique to play with. It's a fun technique to teach and experiment because it kind of gets people's attention. You know, you got such a muddy mess. And then it all comes together and it looks good. Now I think I'm gonna go with a red barn. Wasn't totally sure what color. I was sitting here thinking, do I want a red barn? Do I want a brown barn? Of course, my drawing just shows, whatever. I think a red barn with a beautiful kind of ochre colored foundation wall would look nice. Now, I'm going to touch into just the corner of my brush into some walnut oil. What that does is just the tiniest little bit makes the paint creamier, so that I don't have to just scrub. You don't have to do that. If you had any kind of wet paint in this area, I don't think I would do that. But because this is dry, nothing going on, and I've carefully painted around it, sort of. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to just make the paint a little bit easier to work. Now that is my shadow side of my red barn. Of course, the highlight side will need to be red and not brown. I'm actually going to make some ochre with it. This is, I've done them in all kinds of different shapes and different roughnesses. What I mean by roughness, I mean like the barn is falling over or the barn looks brand new. And today I think I want my barn a little more washed out. This has been painted 20 years ago and it looks like it. You know what I mean? Not painted last year. It's a big difference. It fits with the painting, in my opinion. I think it looks normal. I'm going to finish this barn with the liner brush. And in all reality, if you look at this painting, it's basically done. I just need to liner brush everything and put my fence post in. So I've got no concern, no worry about thinning my paint. Obviously, thinning the paint down to a liner brush consistency, and to tell you the truth, I don't even need it that thin, is not something I do until the very end of the painting. However, we're close enough that I'm okay with it. I also need to do my trees. I almost forgot about that. They won't take but just a couple minutes. But yeah, I just want to go ahead and get some of these details on the roof of the barn, just to kind of enhance the texture of it. I'm not trying to go crazy bright. There we go. Just enough to show, hey, there's a little something going on here. Oops, that's okay. Fix that in a second. Anyway, yeah, playing around with it. And perhaps, I can go in with some other colors as well. I can also highlight the wood right here as well. Just go ahead and get the slats of the barn established. I think that would look really pretty. And I'm going to finally get around to those trees. Just going to mix up some of these few colors that I have that's not muddy. I've already stopped and cleaned my palette once a little while ago. Just tapping with the filbert brush. Probably just going to tap this on for starters carefully. A little walnut oil will actually not be a bad thing. And then once I'm done tapping, get a little bit of this texture on. I'll change to the flat, or not the flat, but the round, the detail round, and complete the tree with comma strokes, because it's about the same level of those trees over there. So we'll make it look similar. It doesn't have to be anything too precise. Just a little fence here to sort of break up, and it's going to be very dark over here, just to break up, the look on that side. Break up that grassy field a little bit, really. Take a lighter color. I don't want the under color, the darkest part. I don't want it to be this dark because it's further in the distance. So I'm going to muddy that color with a little gray or something. And then I can drop in this little fence back here. Could do that with the liner brush in reality, but there you go. I did it. I did it with the little flat brush. This is a flat brush that I fixed. If you haven't seen my how to fix a paintbrush video, you need to go look at it from last week. You'll find it useful, I think, I hope. There you go. Nice. So I've got that little fence running back. And then lastly, I can do my fence that runs the kind of the length of the river this way. Maybe kind of, we'll go right there, I don't know, there. And it just kind of gets bigger, of course, and bigger. And to me, it just creates a little bit more depth in the painting to have something that carries through like that. And I like to make the fence posts smaller than I want them. And then as I kind of block them in, and then I go back over them and make them bigger for obvious reasons. If it's not obvious, the reasons, because you haven't painted very much. There we go. Well, that wraps things up for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our website, DVDs, brush line, and Patreon. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.